Okay, in this lesson, we're doing the same thing, finding the distance between 2 points. But this time, notice they don't have a graph for us here. All they've given us is the numbers. And what we're going to learn is that we can actually do this without actually even drawing the triangle. And I want to show you how this works. And to do this, I'm going to go ahead and put a graph up here that we're going to use, but we actually aren't going to need it. So let's first, to get the idea of what's going on here, let's draw this triangle at -6, 8, -3, 9. And if we were to have graph paper, and if we were to do this, this would be at -6, 8, and -3, 9. There's the distance they're wanting, and here is our right triangle. So let's take a look how we're going to do this without this graph and without drawing this triangle. And this is what I wanted to show you, is that we look at this distance in here and we can see that it's 3 squares, and we look at this. Let's see how we're going to do this. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take those two numbers, the -6 and the -3, in here, only looking at those two numbers. The way that we're going to find out that this leg of the triangle is 3 spaces is we're going to take those two numbers and just subtract them. And it'll look like this: the -3 minus the -6. And when we take -3 and we subtract -6, we get 3. In other words, what I'm saying is, I don't even have to have any of this. That I'm finding out the leg of that triangle just by looking at these two numbers and subtracting them. -3 minus -6 is 3. And what did I do when that happened? What did I actually do? Well, I've got my triangle at -6, 8. And what it did for me was it found this distance. And we're going to see we can do the same thing with these two numbers. These are my y's, the distance between the 8 and the 9. And we can see on the picture really easy that this leg is 1 unit long. And what it's doing is it's taking the distance between an 8 and a 9, and they're actually just subtracting 9 minus 8 equals 1. That's how I know that this leg of the triangle is 1. All right, so here's where it's kind of cool. So I've got my first leg of the triangle was 3, and my second leg of the triangle was 1. And let's remember that I can do that. I'm going to remove this picture again and remind us that even without seeing any of that, we can trust that I have found the two legs of the triangle. Now, to find that hypotenuse, I square the areas and add them. So I'm going to take the 3 squared and the 1 squared and add them together. And what I'm going to get is 3 squared, 3 times 3 is 9, and 1 squared, 1 times 1 is 1, and 9 plus 1 is 10. And so I find out that if I had drawn this, that this hypotenuse is the square root of 10. And since it's not a perfect square, they go ahead in the answer. And so here's our answer, is the square root of 10. So let's look at this again. Taking your x's, these numbers, and subtracting them. It's my first leg. 3 squared is my area. In my second set of numbers, the y's, and subtract them, and I get the 1. So I'm able to do all this work without even using a graph. So I'm going to do it on this next problem here, and I'm not going to bring in the graph at all, just to look at the procedure of how this works. So let's take a look at this problem. So these are my 2 points. Somewhere there's a -5, and somewhere there's a -9 and a 2. And we're asking what's the distance between those points. I guess I could just for fun draw a simple line. Somewhere I'm going to have a line, right? So what I'm going to do is look at my x's, those first two, and I'm going to subtract them. This -9 minus the -5. And if I subtract them, I get a -4. And then I'm going to look at those other dots, the y's, and I'm going to subtract those, -2 minus -5, and I get a 3. And then the area of those legs, we're going to take the -4 and square it. And we're going to take the 3 and square it. Notice that negative number is going to turn positive. Even a -4 times a -4, it's still positive 16. Plus 3 times 3 is 9, and I add it together and I get 25. And so my answer is square root of 25. Since the square root of 25 is 5, they go ahead and say the answer is 5. They don't actually use square root of 25. So here it is. I didn't draw any picture, but I'm using the Pythagorean theorem, which has those legs of the triangle, and there's my legs. So this is a little tougher. Play around with this. Let me know if you have questions. Thank you.